I welcome you to a new session. In this session, we will get acquainted with the dispatch event repository. It's somewhat similar to workflow dispatch, which we used in the previous lessons. Remember, we were running it manually, and workflow dispatch added a button right in the action section, and we also learned how to run it from an external resource using the REST API. So, the dispatch repository is designed to run workflows from an external resource. The difference from workflow dispatch is that there won't be a button on the GitHub Actions side. We will only be able to run it from an external resource, and we will also use the Postman service to send the request. Let's create a new workflow. We will only be able to run it from an external resource, and we will also use the Postman service to send the request. In this section, we will guide you through the steps to create a new workflow. This process involves setting up a sequence of actions that will help automate tasks, making your operations more efficient and productive. Let's transfer some demo content from the previous lessons into it. The event is called repository dispatch. We're passing the types parameter to it. You can choose not to pass it. You can skip it, but I'll pass it later and explain why I'm doing that. And the most interesting thing is that we get to come up with the types parameter ourselves. Since we will be accessing this workload from an external resource, we need some kind of link, and we are free to define these activity types ourselves. In my case, let's say it's test. Just the word test will be the activity types for event repository dispatch. By which dispatcher? For the commands, I'll probably just leave one command, and I'll input the variable with the content that I'll be passing through the REST API. The data itself will be stored in a GitHub object. Then, in the event specifically, we will indeed have the client payload parameter, which is crucial. As a matter of fact, this is essential. Let's just make sure. I'll also put the link to the documentation in the lesson description for your convenience and ease of access. It's indeed an extremely similar approach to the previous lesson. So, the client data payload will go into this specific key where we will pass our variables, and let me just note that my variable will be title with the value test. I don't need a placeholder here. I'll just output the variable. Next, we can commit this change. Let's also change the name. I'll just comment on that for now. Additionally, it's important to remember that these steps are crucial for the process and ensure everything is in order before proceeding. Committing your changes saves a snapshot of your project, and pushing them ensures they are stored remotely. This process is essential for collaboration and version control. Isn't it amazing? Great. Nothing is starting up here at the moment as of now. We also don't have any launch buttons, as you can clearly see. Now, let us carefully use the comprehensive documentation and the reliable Postman service to meticulously set up the entire transmission and launch process. So, we will pass the necessary accept value. And for proper authorization, we will also need to create a separate token now. In summary, the link that you will need to use is going to be as follows. We are very carefully and thoroughly editing each and every single component of the owner and repo. So basically it's a post request. We're also generating the API key right now. But first, let's put together the body. So, in the body, we'll have a JSON object. In this lesson, we need to specify the event type. The event type is nothing more than the activity type that we define ourselves. We come up with it. And what's the idea here? If I want this activity type that we're specifying to be defined by us, we create it ourselves. And what's the idea here? If I want this activity type that we're specifying to be defined by us, we create it ourselves. And what's the idea here? If I want this, the workflow starts when I pass the test parameter. So here I'm specifying the activity type as test, and in the JSON, I'm indicating the event type value. If I set something other than test, like for example a typo in test, it won't start. When there is a test, it will be launched. That's what this activity type is for, and it's custom. We create it ourselves. The second parameter that needs to be present in the body is this key, and we pass it an object, and in this object we'll be passing the variables we need. As previously mentioned, in the earlier part of our discussion, I had clearly stated that I would be utilizing the term test title in our current context. Therefore, I will proceed to pass the value of test title, and subsequently, I will assign its value to the variable known as custom title from REST app. So, I've also set up the body. Now we need to generate a new token. Let's go to Searing. Let's go to Developer Settings, Personal Access Token, Fine Grained Tokens, and generate a new token. So this token will be for the dispatch repository. So 30. Days. So longer than 30 days, 30 days, 30 days, 39 days, 30 days. It will be for a specific repository, GitHub action. Next, permission. And regarding permissions, the documentation always specifies which permission you need to indicate. Specifically for the dispatch event repository, we need the read metadata and read and write content. So we're looking for metadata and content. Metadata read only, and as for content, I scroll down, here it is, and content read and write. That's it, we've set the permissions too. We generate a unique token, carefully copy this specific token, and then I proceed to pass this token through the necessary authorization process to ensure secure access. So, right now, we have everything filled out. The authorization token is filled in, the headers are filled in, we're passing the matter in the body, the link is present, the request type is post. Basically, everything that the documentation asks for, we're providing. Let's try to run this. We got a 204 successful. Let's take a look. In the repository. And in the repository, the workflow also started and completed successfully. If we go inside, we can see the custom tile title from the REST API. Another simple way we can trigger our workflow using some external extension. We definitely stimulated this using Postman, but it could be some other resource. On your website, for example, there could be a button. Or in your other application, a launch button, and this way you can set it up. Let's experiment now. We have a test set up here. If I try to do the same thing now, but not using a test, rather some kind of hocus pocus. The request has been sent. Let's take a closer look at what's happening in the actions. As you can clearly see, I'm currently updating the actions, but unfortunately, nothing is starting because the activity types is strictly set to test mode. In this lesson, we are wrapping up our discussion and summarizing the key points we have covered. See you in the next lesson.